Hello and welcome to Learn Digital Design. This will be our number 7 Inkscape tutorial. If you haven't viewed any of our previous tutorials, you can find them on our website at www.learndigitaldesign.com. And if you are already advanced in Inkscape and understand the basics, you can certainly move ahead to some of the more advanced topics further down the line. Okay, well, I know you're really just chomping at the bit getting ready to do some digital design, but we have to finish the basics of this program. If you don't know the basics, then you're going to be lost when we really start going through some things, because I'm going to go fast and we're not going to cover the basics. So here's where you're going to learn about the basics. And what we're going to talk about today is the fill and stroke panel. And you can access this by pressing Control-Shift-F. And there's not any options here right now. There's no object selected, so it doesn't know what to apply the fill and stroke to. There has to be something for it to apply the fill and stroke to. So let's just create a rectangle tool. A rectangle here with the rectangle tool. Now you see we have options. There's RGB, which stands for red, green, blue, and you have red, green, and blue right here. And you also have your alpha value here. The alpha value corresponds to the transparency of the object. And here on this slider here, you can decide how much red you want. Here you can decide how much green you want. Here you can decide how much blue you want. And also, if you know the numerical value, you can enter it directly over here to the right hand side. There's also something called hexadecimal, and there is plenty of information out there on the web about hexadecimal, so I'm not going to cover it in a lot of detail here, but basically it's just a number and letter format, an alphanumeric code that corresponds to your color. And the first two letters and numbers correspond to the amount of red, the second two correspond to the amount of green, the third two correspond to the amount of blue, and the last two correspond to the alpha code. And it can go from 0 to F. F being the lightest and 0 being the darkest. So all zeros would be completely black and all F's would be completely white. Let's talk about HSL. This is hue, saturation, and lightness, and you can adjust your colors this way as well. Here's CMYK. This is cyan, magenta, yellow, and key. And key stands for black. Then you have the wheel option here. Here's your different color values here, and of your alpha value at the bottom. And if you know a whole lot more about colors than even I do, here you have the option for CMS, which is Color Management System, here on the very most right hand side. If you know how to use that, kudos to you, and it's there for you. So far what we've been looking at here is all under this Fill tab. There's 3 tabs here at the top. Before we go into these other items here, we're going to talk about stroke, and it basically gives you all of the same options as Fill does, except now we're not talking about the center of the object, we're talking about the stroke around the outside of the object. You can also assign a color for it, and you will do that just exactly the same way as you would with a Fill. Then you have stroke style. You can choose the width of your stroke. You can choose it in pixels, points, a percentage, millimeters, centimeters, pretty much any measurement you can come up with, it is here. This is going to decide on the way that your strokes are joined: a meter join, rounded join, or a beveled join. The caps on the end of your strokes are if they're going to be squared off, rounded, or is the square going to extend past the end of your stroke here. You can choose all kinds of different strokes as far as dashes, dots, and other types of strokes here. There are also some really cool things you can do with the strokes here at the bottom. You have these start markers. Look at that. You can make arrows. You can make dots, squares on the end of or on the beginning of your strokes. These mid markers go in the middle of the stroke. And then you have the end markers. You can put a tail on the end, like this. You can have whatever you want there on the end of your stroke for different effects that you can use. This will be very good in labeling and putting arrows towards different things that you might want to highlight on your in your designs. And okay, as I've stated before, I try to keep these tutorials as close to 5 minutes as possible, so we're running a little over here, and we'll pick up with more on the fill and stroke panel and other things you can do with Inkscape on the next tutorial. I'll see you there.